Apparently, you don't have to be very smart to be a journalist. That's what we learned yesterday during Donald Trump's 60 Minutes interview with Norah O'Donnell when she asked him, are we going to invade Venezuela?
Are Maduro's days as president numbered?
I would say, yeah. I think so, yeah.
And this issue of potential land strikes in Venezuela, is that true?
I don't tell you that. I mean, I'm not saying it's true or untrue, but I wouldn't.
Why would
I
we
wouldn't
do
be
it?
inclined to say that I would do that, but because I don't talk to a reporter about whether or not I'm going to strike.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, who are you? if you were the Secretary of War, well, that's one thing. If you're Secretary of State, that's totally different. But I'm not going to talk to a reporter about whether or not I'm going to strike Venezuela. What am I, stupid? What are you, stupid? That was Donald Trump's return to 60 Minutes. You may remember last year, Donald Trump sued 60 Minutes after they deceptively edited an interview with Kamala Harris to make her sound less idiotic than she actually is. They took the answer from one question, which was still really bad, and they spliced it onto a separate question where the answer was really, really bad. They were busted by their own intern or something, who aired a clip which clearly showed the interview had been edited. Donald Trump sued for election interference and was awarded $16 million by CBS and by 60 Minutes, yet he still went back on for an extended interview, a 90-minute interview. They aired 28 minutes of it with Norah O'Donnell that they taped at the White House. And she covered a range of topics. One topic they talked about was why President Donald Trump agreed to come back on the CBS interview or on 60 Minutes for an interview. And they cut that part out. He basically talked about Barry Weiss and the changes at the top of CBS that made him very, very happy. But the other thing she wanted to know about was Venezuela and whether or not we're going to invade.
Are we going to war against Venezuela?
I doubt it. I don't think so, but they've been treating us very badly, not only on drugs. They've dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country that we didn't want. People from prisons, they emptied their prisons into our country. They also, if you take a look, they emptied their mental institutions and their insane asylums into the United States of America because Joe Biden was the worst president in the history of our country.
This is one of my favorite clips because when he's asked, are we going to go to war with Venezuela? He says, I doubt it, which means there's a strong likelihood that we will not. But that still leaves room for, us to say, yeah, we should probably those rapscallions. Also, he ends it with Joe Biden being the worst president in the history of our country. So a nice bookend from President Donald Trump on that answer. But it's not just Norah O'Donnell. He was asked about this on Air Force One by another reporter. And I don't know what they teach at journalism school or if any of these people attended journalism school. I guess they tell you have to ask all of the questions because maybe at one point someone will slip up and tell you the answer. That must be the methodology behind it. But Donald Trump is not your average schmo, and he's not going to fall for those things at all. But yet they keep trying, even on Air Force One.
Now that it's not true that you've made a decision on striking in Venezuela, are there actual plans for those strikes in the near future?
Well, how can I answer a question like that? Are there plans for a strike on Venezuela? Who would say that? Supposing there were, would I say that to you? We have very secret plans. Who would say that? What kind of a question is it? Look, we'll see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela sent us thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people from prisons, from mental institutions, drug addicts, and so did other countries. That's the bad. I mean, other countries did it too, because we were run by very stupid people.
Yeah, it's basically the same stupid question, same brilliant answer from President Donald Trump. But Norah O'Donnell asked a bunch of things. She wanted to know about the ICE raids, and she wanted to know about some of these images that are popping up that Americans are starting to see where you have women that are getting tackled by ICE agents because, they're non-compliant. And you have tear gas being used on people because, again, they're non-compliant. When you ignore law enforcement is going to have to step up their efforts. And Donald Trump said, look, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening. This is exactly what's procedurally happening, and it's going to continue to happen.
More recently, Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, and the smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far?
No, I think they haven't gone far enough because we've been held back by the judges, by the liberal judges that were put in by Biden and by Obama.
You're okay with those tactics?
Yeah, because you have to get the people out. You have to look at the people. Many of them are murderers. Many of them are people that were thrown out of their countries because they were, criminals.
Yeah, criminals, and they were from the mental institutions, and we don't want them here. We don't want these people here. First of all, they're illegal. If they come to the country illegally, that is breaking the law. And that's something, again, that the media doesn't seem to understand. They seem to think that if you come here illegally, but you're not a murderer or a drug runner or any kind of human trafficker, that it's okay for you to stay in this country. But they've neglected to point out that breaking the law begins when you step foot into this country illegally and you don't go through the proper processes. And President Donald Trump had to point that out once again to Norah O'Donnell, who accused him of deporting non-criminals.
Is it your intent to deport people who do not have a criminal record?
We have to start off with a policy, and the policy has to be you came into the country illegally, you're going to go out. However, you've also seen you're going to go out, we're going to work with you, and you're going to come back into our country legally.
That's it. I mean, look, the policy is you broke the law by coming into the country illegally. You're going to have to you're going to have to suffer the consequences, which is you will now be deported legally back to your country. And if you go on your own recognizance, if you go on your own accord, if you self-deport, as millions of Americans already have, then you have the opportunity to apply to come back to the United States of America legally. But Norah O'Donnell and 60 Minutes and the lunatics on the left, they disagree with deporting these illegal immigrants. They disagree with people coming into the country illegally and then having to go back where they were. And they want Donald Trump to stop. So she asked him, when does it all end?
When will you declare mission accomplished on immigration?
Well, it takes a long time because, probably I say 25 million people were let into our country. A lot of people say it was 10 million people, but whether it was 10 or I believe I'm much closer to the right number. Of the 25, many of them should not be here. But we're cleaning up our cities. I campaigned on crime, but I've done a much better job on crime than I thought. The crime numbers are way down, even though we have a lot more people in our country that really shouldn't be here, and many of them are stone cold, hard criminals.
We've still got people to get rid of. Crime has got to go way down. We've got to make sure the border's secure, and we've got to get out people who shouldn't be here, because not only are they adding to the criminal element, but they're also draining our systems. And when you look at what's been going on with Social Security, when you look at what's been going on with USAID, when you look at what's been going on with the DOGE program, there's savings, there's a reduction in costs, there's reduction in traffic, there's reduction in classroom size. Everything is better in the United States of America when you protect the rights of United States citizens and extricate those people who have come here illegally and broken the law. Speaking of breaking the law, she also asked about a couple of high-profile criminals who've been recently indicted, including James Comey and John Bolton and Letitia James.
James Comey, John Bolton, Letitia James were all recently indicted. There's a pattern to these names. They're all public figures who have publicly denounced you. Is it political retribution?
You know what? You know who got indicted? The man you're looking at. I got indicted, and I was innocent. And here I am because I was able to beat all of the nonsense that was thrown at me. And yet, when you go after a dirty cop like Comey, or a guy like Bolton, who I hear I don't know anything about it. I hear he took records all over the place. Who knows? Letitia James is a terrible, dishonest person, in my opinion.
Did you instruct the Department of Justice to go after them?
Not in any way, shape, or form. No, you don't have to instruct them because they were so dirty, they were so crooked, they were so corrupt that the honest people we have, Pam Bondi's doing a very good job. Kash Patel's doing a very good job. The honest people that we have go after them automatically.
Yeah, they're so bad. These people are so bad that I don't need to tell anybody to go after them because they look around and go, who are the biggest criminals in the country? James Comey, check. Letitia James, check. John Bolton, yeah, we should probably bring those people to justice, and that's exactly where they start. But Donald Trump says, look, you want to talk about indictments? You're mad about James Comey and John Bolton and Letitia James? Look at this guy. Look at me. 91 indictments, all of them bogus, all of them phony. 91 indictments they brought against me. Where were you crying and whining it back then? Where were you saying this is political retribution on Joe Biden's part? Did you ask Joe Biden if he sent Merrick Garland after me? No. These questions were never asked of Joe Biden, probably because he wouldn't have understood a single word that they were saying, but they were never asked of Joe Biden. Joe Biden was never accused of political retribution against President Donald Trump. It's amazing how one-sided the media is. But again, that's why Donald Trump sued for $16 million and won. And yet he still comes back on CBS, whether to say water under the bridge or rub their nose in it, probably a little bit of both. But he said, look, I am not at all. I am very mild-mannered when it comes to this kind of stuff. This is not this is exactly what should be happening.
Is this retribution on your part?
No, it's the opposite. I think I've been very mild-mannered. You're looking at a man who was indicted many times, and I had to beat the rap. Otherwise, I couldn't have run for president. They tried to get me not to run for president by going after me and by indicting me.
Yeah, and that is something that the media, again, tends to forget. Now, speaking of elections, there's a high-profile election going on in New York, and President Donald Trump was asked by Norah O'Donnell about that election as well. It's the Zohran Mamdani election, and she tried to paint Zohran Mamdani as a left-leaning President Donald Trump, and Donald Trump had the perfect answer for that.
Zohran Mamdani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist. He's the
communist, not socialist, communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Some people have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better looking person than him, right?
That is, that's all. At the end of the day, let's be honest. But Donald Trump said, look, there's something very important to understand about what's going on with the Democrat Party, and they're embracing communism.
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there. So I don't know that he's won, and I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Look at that. If it's a bad Democrat or a good communist, always choose the bad Democrat. I always say the same thing about Republicans. If it's a choice between any Democrat or a bad Republican is better than any Democrat. Now we're taking it one step further. We're going, all right, a bad Democrat is better than a good communist. So it just kind of goes, cyclically throughout. But that's a good knowledge nugget and life lesson you should teach your kids. Teach them about, saving money, compound interest. And, oh, yeah, a bad Democrat is better than a good communist any day of the week. The other thing that she mentioned finally was Donald Trump's trip to Asia, which a lot of people tend to gloss over. The left very angry that Donald Trump has not injected himself into the government shutdown debate. They're angry that he had a Halloween party at Mar-a-Lago, supposedly. But they kind of discounted his trip to Asia. Many Democrats accused him of leaving the country when he was going to solidify relationships with some of the strongest countries in the world and bringing back, again, hundreds of billions of dollars in investments, while also having a very concrete face-to-face with Xi Jinping of China. And the Democrats don't like Donald Trump sitting down with Xi Jinping of China because they always end up losing money. One of the things that was not mentioned was Taiwan. And Donald Trump said it's because he knows. He knows.
I know you have said that Xi Jinping wouldn't dare move militarily on Taiwan while you're in office. But what if he does? Would you order U.S. forces to defend Taiwan?
You'll find out if it happens. And he understands the answer to that.
Why not say
This never even came up yesterday as a subject. He never brought it up. People were a little surprised at that. He never brought it up because he understands it, and he understands it very well.
Do you mind if I ask, when you say he understands, why not communicate that publicly to the rest of us? What does he understand?
I don't want to give away. I can't give away my secrets. I don't want to be one of these guys that tells you exactly what's going to happen if something happens. The other side knows, but I'm not somebody that tells you everything because you're asking me a question, but they understand what's going to happen. And he has openly said, and his people have openly said at meetings, we would never do anything while President Trump is president. Because they know the consequences.
They know exactly what's going to happen. Taiwan is safe as long as Donald Trump is president, and that is something that they can take to the bank. So they don't even talk about it. They don't even bring it up. It's an understood reality, and that is what's keeping Taiwan safe. Anything other than Donald Trump or one of Donald Trump's handpicked successors in the White House, and Taiwan would face a much different fate especially under a Democratic rule. One of the things that Donald Trump has been, of course, pressed on is the government shutdown, which continues now almost the longest in history because the Democrats refuse to vote. 5 Democrats is all that's needed to end the shutdown, to open up the country, to allow people to go back to work, to allow people to get their payments, to allow people to fly without having to worry about flight delays or any of that nonsense. But the Democrats still continue to refuse to do it. And one of the things that Donald Trump has said is, look, we'll give them whatever they want. We'll talk about whatever they want, but they have to open up the country.
All we have to do is open up the country. You know, we voted 14 times to open the country. We have voted 14 times to open the country, and they vote to keep it closed. All they have to do is vote to open the country, and we only need 5 Democrats. They have a lot of Democrats. We only need 5. But the Republicans have voted 14 times to open the country.
And the Democrats have not. And that's why President Donald Trump continues to push for the nuclear option. In fact, this just this morning, he was back on Truth Social writing, terminate the filibuster, not just for the shutdown, but for everything else. We will get all of our common sense policies approved, voter ID, and make America great again. Remember, the Democrats will do it immediately as soon as they get the chance. Our doing it will not give them the chance. Republicans will be tough and smart. The Dems are crazed lunatics. They will not open up our country no matter how many people are irreparably harmed. And that is something that becomes more and more of a reality every single day. Every single day, it seems more and more that the filibuster must go, that this is something that the Democrats have planned all along. As soon as they get back to power, if they ever get back to power, they will get rid of it. And Donald Trump saying, why are we waiting for that day? Why don't we use it now so we can open up the country and get all of the things we want done? And all we have to do is maintain power over the Senate. That way we can protect our future and make America truly great again. We'll see what happens this week, whether there's a vote to reopen the government, whether there's a vote to nuke the filibuster, or whether they start the new precedent. And it'll be interesting to see if these things come to an end. I will say this. I know for a fact, if the Democrats step up and play ball and 5 of them change their minds, then Donald Trump will sit down and negotiate on whatever they want. Healthcare, this, that, the other. But if they don't, if the Republicans are forced to use the filibuster, then all bets are off. And there will be no meetings with the Democrats, because why would there be? There would be no need for meetings with the Democrats. That's how Donald Trump continues to win. Incidentally, if you want to know how Donald Trump keeps winning, and if you want to win for yourself, get a copy of my book, Go Trump Yourself, which is available now. Go Trump Yourself. It's $24 for the digital bundle. You get an ebook. You get the ebook that you can read instantly. You get a downloadable audiobook as well. So if you don't want to read, that's fine. You don't have to read. I'll read it to you. All you have to do is go to gotrumpyourself.com and download your copy today. Gotrumpyourself.com. Get this book today and live like Trump tomorrow.